When I first started telling my story publicly, nobody warned me what it was going to be like. No one sat down and said, hey, there are going to be some people who are genuinely awful and you will have to deal with this if you want to share your story and spread your message on a public stage. At the time, I had really little family support because my family found it quite difficult as I wanted to be quite vocal about my experiences and what I'd been through. And of course, there is a bit of overlap between my story and their story, although my story does ultimately belong to me. So I had very little family support. I wasn't medicated. I wasn't getting therapy support. I didn't have a coach who could actually help me understand how to do this in a safe way. I was purely telling my story through sheer grit of, hey, this is something that I know is so important and I have to get it out there into the world. And so I was completely blindsided with what it was actually like when I chose to do that. And I'm telling you this because I don't want that to be your experience. I don't want you to make the same mistakes I did. I don't want to scare you, and I'm not trying to terrorize you or put you off sharing your story publicly or building a big personal brand. But I want to tell you the reality of what it will be like, and in the hopes that that will help you navigate it a bit better for yourself as you choose to build this personal brand and really spread your message into the world. This work, whether it's your brand, story, beliefs, or business, is about unbecoming who you were told to be and remembering who the fuck you actually are. It is about reclaiming your voice, standing in your mana power, and building a life rooted in your whakapapa, the story of how you belong to everything which came before you and that will come after you. We are not simply building brands here. We are breaking inherited patterns and building generations. If that's the kind of work that you are seeking, follow the podcast so you do not miss what comes next. You are with Lilia Tarawa on Brand Breaker. So today I wanted to share 3 things that I wish someone had told me before I told my story publicly. And before I get into it, there are a couple of reasons why this is really important. Number 1 is your mental health. So your ability to be okay during the telling of your story as you're being incredibly visible. It requires preparation, you need support, and you need self-awareness. So nobody talks about the mental health cost. It's a lot, and it's the cost of being in the spotlight. It's the cost of being visible and telling your story. And again, not to put you off, this is simply to prepare you so you're aware and you can get the things in place that are right for you so that you can do this with power and stay okay through the process so that you don't burn out, so that you have the right support and structures as you proceed. The second is your rights. So a lot of the time, sometimes we talk about things being boundaries, and boundaries are true. It's important to have boundaries of steel. But a lot of the time, it's about understanding what your rights actually are. You have a right to be visible online without being smeared. You have a right to say your opinion without receiving threats of violence for that. You have a right to protect yourself and to feel safe as you are building your brand and your business. The third reason is about who you will need to become and what that person looks like and how much that's going to change who you are so that you don't get blindsided by the fact that you may lose some people along the way. I want you to go into building a personal brand and being really visible and in the public eye with your eyes open so that you're not blindsided, but so that you understand what the costs are. You are going to change. Your life is going to change. And so the decision to tell your story can be a really key and vital turning point of your life, and it needs to be held with care around that. So let's dive into it. The first thing I want to talk about today is online violence. So let's call it what it is. It's online violence. It's not just harassment or bullying. It's online violence. Now, when I talk about online violence, when I told my story, I was receiving death threats. People who said they were going to physically harm me used really violent words to describe how that was going to happen. And I've also watched this happen with other people who have been really visible with their stories. People who are saying, this is my opinion and this is what happened to me. And often just, this is my way of looking at the world. And for some reason, there's some really vile, ugly people out in the world who think that that is an invitation to say the most disgusting things to people. I don't want to minimize this or just brush it off as harassment. I'm being harassed, I'm being bullied. This is violence. It's just moved into a digital space where accountability is so much lower and people can get away with things, and you shouldn't let them get away with things when it comes to your protection and your safety as you are building your personal brand in the world. A lot of the time, people can just use online media and social media as a way to project all of their darkness and all of their shit onto someone else. Often it's not about you, it's actually about them and what's going on in their world. And I know, do you know what? I know we say that a lot. We say it's not about you, it's about them. But let's break that down. What does that actually even mean? It's the same way that if a woman wears a skirt that is revealing her legs, it's not an invitation for a man to sexually assault her, even though there are a lot of religions that do teach this. In the same way, you speaking publicly is not an invitation for someone to attack you. It doesn't make you a bad person. You've done nothing to deserve that type of treatment. It is simply because that is a vile, horrible, ugly person who wants to project all of their nastiness into the world. And a lot of these people are just predators who are out there actually looking for victims. So be really aware as you're navigating this online world. When we say it's not about you, it's about them. It's about knowing that there are shitty, fucking horrible people in the world. And your job is to provide yourself structure and support so you can be as safe as possible. And that might just mean being very that means protecting your privacy in certain ways. Who has access to you online through your emails, making sure that if you have a team that you're working with, like who's managing your social media and what do they pass on to you to see and what do you not need to see. And so there's some tools and tricks around that can really help you navigate that as you encounter it online. Something happened recently where there was a person who started a smear campaign about me on social media. This kind of thing happens a lot. We see it especially in spaces with women, particularly Blake Lively, particularly J.K. Rowling. Look, you may or may not love these people, but I'm using them as an example because what can tend to happen is one person starts an idea about this person or who they are, and everyone wants to pick it up and get it on the bandwagon because it's a trend and everyone wants to talk about it. And very often, a lot of people are just reacting. They're not stopping to think or engage with any of that person's content. They just like to latch on to whatever media they hear and whatever stories they hear and whatever headlines hook you in. And remember that headlines are designed to trigger you. That's the whole point of a hook, is to trigger you. So you want to read it. I've seen so many women cancelled online because they held a position or a belief. And I'm not saying that I particularly agree with the position and the beliefs that these people have, but I am saying that they have a right to have their belief and speak their belief without it inviting threats of death and violence towards them. Every single human on the planet has that right to be safe. So when things like this happen to you, and they inevitably will if you're growing a massive personal brand, you need to block, you need to report, you need to get your community to report. You need to decide at what point you get the police involved and what point you get legal involved. And so it's really important to have those protections in place and know that you have resources available to you to deal with this kind of thing as well. It's important to get therapy support too, if it's affecting you in any way, to make sure that you are fully safe and supported through that process. And also, just remember, these people are not important to you. These people that are out to ruin your life and just want to be like troll you online, that's not important to you and your brand. So you've got to be really focused on yourself and your mission and what's important to you, which kind of brings me into our next point. Know who you are before you go visible, because that is your anchor. The reason things don't affect me like this, even though they used to a lot. And I'm not saying that they don't, because I'm still a human being. I don't like shitty things said about me online that are untrue. But I know what I believe and I know who I am. When the world throws challenges and horrible situations across your path, which it will inevitably do, because it's life, and that's the challenges you get when you want to scale a really big empire and build a large personal brand. Knowing who you are is like your anchor in the storm. That was really important for me when I decided to tell my story about growing up in a religious cult and share that really publicly, because it was about, for me, going, okay, I know that it's so, so important for me to get this message of self-worth and self-love out there and to spread awareness to the fact that children are being really hurt and abused and are unsafe in religious environments. It was very, very important for me to share that message. And because that conviction was so deep in my reason why and my drive to do that was so strong, it helped to drown out all of the other voices that were criticizing me. Family members that didn't want me to write it, who threatened to write my story, who threatened to take me to court. Knowing who I was and why I was doing it and being very clear that I loved this person, that I loved myself and who I was and what I was standing up for, helped carry me through those challenges. You need a clear conviction. And it's important for you to be able to stand in that and say, I will die on this hill. And it's not about extremism. It's about you being just really grounded in who you are, how you're showing up, and being clear about that. So then you're not buffeted by the winds of challenges that come across your path. And here's the thing, only you can choose what that is for yourself. But it would be really helpful for you to sit down and write down what that actually is. Because you have a right. You have a right to choose what you believe and what you're going to stand up for. You also have a right to stand up for yourself. And you don't have to prove those reasons for anyone. Say, for example, if you are deciding you're going to walk away from a career, or you're going to start a new business, you're going to pivot, you're very successful, and people are like, you're crazy. Why are you doing this? But you just know that this is the right path for you, right? A lot of the time we expect to get support from certain family members and certain colleagues and people around us, but we don't get that support. If you are strong enough to go, okay, I don't actually need to keep relationships that no longer serve me, that's going to really help you in your life. Like during the period of time when I was writing my story and sharing it in a big way with the world and building my personal brand, the best thing I ever did was walk away from certain relationships that did not serve me and be very clear about how I was not going to tolerate being treated. And when you respect yourself in that way, what happens is you automatically will push some people away from you. Because when you have strong boundaries like that, people who like to control you and who like to push you around very naturally do not like that situation. So you can kind of tell, hey, the people who are throwing tantrums when I'm asserting my boundaries or changing my career or walking away from this marriage, for example, the relationships around me that are reacting really badly, that tells you a lot about who that person actually is to you, what their expectations of you, and you can use that information as data to decide whether or not you keep that person in your life. Little tangent there, but really important. Because I was tangenting and we were riffing there for a minute, that was moving me into the third thing that I wish someone had told me, which was that the people in your life might not cheer you on, but that's not a sign that you're making the wrong choice. Sometimes you might expect support from these people, but you just get criticism. And it's really hard. I just want to acknowledge that it's so hard. Navigating relationships while you're making a big life change is hard because these people have only ever seen you this way, and they have to change their whole perception of you because you're changing and you're growing so much, and that's really hard. The most beautiful relationships and the ones that you want to keep and the ones you want to really cherish and value are the relationships that are able to stand the test of time with you and stay with you through the shifts and changes of your life and always be there as a steady support. And I really learned this as I was going through my experience of writing my book and speaking at business conferences and schools. And I realized what kind of people I wanted in my life. And so now as an adult woman, I'm really, really picky about who I let in my inner circle because those people need to bring value to me in some way. And the exchange between us needs to be really wholesome and supportive. It doesn't mean that you don't have conflict and you don't have disputes, but it does mean that those relationships still support you and respect your choices. And that's the most important thing, is that you have relationships who support you. So now I have this beautiful relationship with this man who treats me like an absolute queen. And that's because I was willing to walk away from relationships which were the wrong ones and didn't serve me. The truth is that not everyone's going to be comfortable with you changing. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for you, but it's actually uncomfortable for the people around you as well. That's okay. And the people who are willing to go through that discomfort with you, that tells you a lot about whether or not that relationship is truly, truly of value for you and will last the test of time, especially moving into your future as you continue to grow and grow and grow and change. Because that's the thing. If you're on this path where you're building something that really matters, it doesn't stop. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and having a wider reach and a wider impact. Now, I know that some of this was a bit heavy, right? And I hope to God that none of this ever happens to you. I hope that you have smooth sailing. But if you don't, I hope that this has in some way really prepared you for what you might encounter and experience. I hope that you have people around you who cheer you on. I hope that you remember that you have rights and you're allowed to assert them, that you're allowed to assert boundaries, that you have a right to feel safe, and that you know who you are, and that you are strong in that conviction, and that as you spread your message, that it truly leaves a mark on the world. If you feel that you are on this path and you know that you've a big story to share, you're going to build a big personal brand, and you want a safe space that can actually help you navigate all of this kind of thing, I am more than open to having a conversation with you. You can reach out to me. My contact details are in the show notes, so just email through and let me know if you have any questions that you'd like me to answer. I am more than happy to have a chat. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for listening in. It's been a big work week this week, had a lot going on. I've been doing a lot of podcasting, had catch up with my team. We've got some workflows going in Notion right now, which are freaking sweet because I just trained somebody new. Now we've got a back and forth on Notion that's working great. So I'm really happy with that. What else has been going on in my world? I had a massive osteo adjustment the week before last. So my shoulder was really, really sore. So I had to take some time off. So if you haven't heard from me for a wee while, that's actually why. I had quite a bad sort of injury in my shoulder. It was very, very painful. And so I needed to just step back. I couldn't eat it, which sucked. But it is what it is. I'm only human. So making sure to move my body, getting plenty of sleep, hanging out with my family and building this business. Had a super cool podcast episode just today from an incredible coach who I'm so excited to drop this episode for you. Like, it's sick. There's so many goodies in there. So I'm super excited about that. Last weekend was Easter weekend. So got a big weekend, managed to get outside for a bit, but also do some reading since I was injured and couldn't do much else. Managed to do a bit of reading. So I was reading quite a few fantasy books. I'm a voracious reader, so I read all the time. I always make time for it, which was nice to have a little bit of time off as well. So it was kind of like the injury came at a good time for me because I really did need some rest. Oh, and I just got some new studio lights. So I'm using this amazing light right here, which I just picked up super cheap from a friend. So I'm so happy with that because I've been meaning to upgrade my lighting for a while now. And I'm looking at getting one of the rooms in our house set up with, so I can just turn all the podcast stuff on and don't have to set it up. So that's going to be really cool. You might see a little bit of change with the video podcasting. Try and reduce the resistance to doing the podcast so that it's easy. I can walk in and switch one light and everything goes on and then I'm ready to rock and roll. So I might have to invest in a little bit more gear to make that work for me. Going to buy a desk and clamp, put my computer and my camera onto it, as well as buy some lights for that area and set up the background really nicely. So I'm working on that at the moment, just fixing up my home studio. And then other than that, working on getting my webinar together, which is for a brand new launch. So I'm super excited to bring that to you all. Other than that, that's kind of me, guys. So thanks for hanging out on the podcast today. I really hope this was helpful for you. And I hope that you took away some tips. And if you want to chat about this for yourself because you're building something big at the moment, do reach out. I'm here to chat and support. Other than that, thank you for watching Brand Breaker. You're with Lilia Tarawa.